I gotta hear what you think about Brock floating the fact that it's a possibility he might not even play next year.
Did he?
What do you think
Where did he
about
say that?
that? In this Sports Illustrated issue interview, it is like buried in the back. He's like, he doesn't even know, which is where he is at right now. That's not. I mean, it's probably unlikely that he's in a situation where he can't play next year. But it's definitely. I'm sure his doctors are telling him that that's not like outside of the range of possibilities. It's he's just took his brace off. That's possible. To hear him say it is it was kind of jarring, but that's real. That is a real possibility that he's just not physically ready to play.
Yeah, and we've been pretty consistent on this in that having Trey there, having Trey led the team last year throughout all the offseason. He'll be there again to lead the team in the offseason. He should by doing that, he will be ready more quickly than Brock will be. And I think it's a positive thing is to have a talented guy who is ready and hungry and willing for the mere fact that who knows, it's to me, I think Brock is just he's young. He's probably a little emotional about this situation. He's got the future right in front of his eyes, and he has a hurdle now that to come from where he came from, where he's the Rudy of the draft, right? He's the guy who's the underdog. Nobody thinks can do it, and then he proves it. And then to him, he's got to think like, oh my gosh, like now I got to prove it again. Now I got to go through this hurdle again. So I think probably a little emotion in that answer. But also he's seems to be a pretty dogged kid. And I imagine him, you know, going through the emotions of everything that relates to the injury coming off of that great season, the great rookie season. Yeah, I could see why he would say that. But at the same time, the thing that I think is not like a done deal is him coming back 100%.
Mm-hmm.
With baseball, a lot of times with this Tommy John stuff, it can take a while. Now, I know it's not the same injury for him that these baseball pitchers go through with the full reconstructive, but there is a timetable to where he's going to feel like himself again, and that is more about patience and rehab than anything else. And so for a young guy he's probably chomping at the bit to get out there, he's gotta listen to his doctors and make sure that the rehab goes well. But at the same time, that's why we are so lucky to have a talented player in the system who's basically now running the show for his second straight offseason, heading into the preseason. And hopefully there's value in Trey being able to do that, so that if Trey is the bridge, it's a good bridge. Or if Brock is not Brock, then maybe Trey is the better option, and that's who we go into the season with. So there's options, but there's also question marks surrounding the entire situation, which I'm sure will make 49er fans very loud this offseason heading into the preseason. And we'll just have stuff to talk about, which is great for us.
Yep. Yep. It's got I just continue to share. I my nephews played ball and my uncles played ball, and I know just in the time that from my nephew being playing travel ball through high school, um I know of 6 of his teammates who have had that exact surgery.
Yeah.
And then the range, the range, the out range of outcomes have been, there was one kid who had that surgery and was against doctor's orders, which you were just talking about, you need to guard against, was throwing long toss at 4 months, and by 6 months he was cleared and was right back up at 89, 87, 88 miles an hour. Now, granted, I've talked to like my nephew's doctor, and he said at that age of 16, 17, 18 years old, those, they're mutants in terms of um healing. But
Yeah.
then my nephew, when he had his, he was cleared to throw at 6 months. It took him a full 18 months to
Oh,
get
yeah,
to
that's rough.
get back up to 88, 89. And for those of you who don't know, the opportunities and prospect for a high school at 82, 83 are a lot different than if you're throwing at 88, 89. So
Yeah.
that was a grueling, wondering if he's back. And then there have kids ever who've been throwing up in that high velocity and never they get injured and they never come back to being able to throw, I know, I understand quarterback is a little different in that velocity isn't necessarily as, important as it is for a pitcher. And again, you can make the case that you can become a junk baller or whatever. But in this game anymore, I can just tell you from a recruiting standpoint, they look at you way different.
Yeah.
If you're throwing 82, 83, you talking about JUCO,
Yeah.
maybe. You're not
Maybe
getting a
junior
D.
college.
You're not getting a D1 scholarship. You're not getting D1 looks. That low. I mean, your stuff has to be filthy. You're talking about Greg Mattis type filthy for somebody to be looking at you, for that. And for those kids, and then you talk about going pro, and you can forget about it. If that's what you're topping out at, in high school, nah, it's just not gonna happen. But and again, I know that's different. But the point is that it's how to think that we know right now what his forget about long-term prognosis is going to be, what's going to happen between now and training camp.
Yep.
We have no idea. We have no idea. So we just have to hope for the best. And I personally, like, I'm a player's guy, so I want him to do what's best for him long term,
Yep.
not to be trying to rush back. And because I understand, I get it, to try to press his advantage that he earned last season. The instinct is to try to, I'm going to get back out there and hold my spot. But I think he needs to be looking at this as a long-term play.
Yep.
He's got 10, 11, 12 years that he could be in this league making money. And I would hate for him to do something to jeopardize that long-term money on a short-term gain.
Absolutely.
So I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for him. Despite what people think that Trey is my guy. Yes, that is true. But I want Brock Purdy to be a good player too. I don't think that it has to be an either or situation. I want them both to be good. And then whoever's the best player, then he's the 49er quarterback. And then whoever else goes on, and I hope they have a good career elsewhere.
Yeah.
I hope they both end up being good players, and I hope Brock just does what prioritizes his long-term future as he's moving forward through this part of his career.